Welcome, my friends, to another installment of Ender.io. And today we're going to be covering a little bit on power generation. We're only going to be covering about half of what is available. There's plenty to choose from, but today's episode is going to be focusing on Stirling and Solar. And before I get too much further, today's episode is brought to you by Monkey1357. Thank you very much for your patronage, Monkey. It's always appreciated. All right, so here we have a little bit of a setup. Now, some of this, I'm using other mods to help demonstrate a few things, but more or less, this is just Ender.io focused. And this is your entry level, getting into it, and what you have to start, and what you can progress into, specifically using solids, one fluid, and potentially solar. So let's start off with what you have to start with, and that is pretty much the simple Stirling generator. Now, if you have other power gen in a mod pack, then obviously you can go elsewhere. But as far as Ender.io, you pretty much have to start with this, because any of the other ones that you're going to be crafting will require different machines to make them, and those machines are powered. So therefore, you have to have some way of making power, and that is with this. Now, a simple Stirling generator, here's the recipe, which requires a simple machine chassis and some infinity bimetal gears, broken down. It more or less looks like this top row. I mean, yeah, not too bad. And these are iron nuggets here, a few iron bars. It's not too bad to get things started, but there are some downsides to this. It is a good starter power gen, but that's about it. And I even have a piece of white carpet here just for demonstration purposes. Now, I have next to this a capacitor bank. These here are basically just battery cells that you can store things in. They're made with, more and more capacitors as you upgrade them. This one will hold 1 million, and I believe the next level holds 5 million, and then so on. It keeps going up to your vibrant and so on. But those are going to be key for storing some things. I often recommend, if you're using one of these, try to make yourself a capacitor bank to hook up to it so that all power that it makes gets stored, and then take from that storage. The reason I say this is because, I'm going to shut this off. It is disabled on the side here, so this battery cell is not going to be pulling any power. If I put this in, you see it has no power in it right now. You see it says leakage, 0.10 micro infinity per tick, which means that this is going to slowly, over time, waste power. So let's put that white carpet in there. Gets us a little bit of power, and you can see that it is currently dropping. This is why I recommend that you immediately get yourself some kind of capacitor bank. Now, if I were to enable this, there we go. It now will accept all of the power from this machine. It won't leak anymore, and this currently will keep its quantity. This is your very first thing. Don't just waste this hooking it up to other things. Make yourself a battery and have that be the go-between. This goes into the battery. Battery goes into any other machines that you so desire to start building your Ender.io empire. Now, once you've got your simple Stirling generator, you're probably immediately going to want to upgrade that, because it doesn't have a lot to choose from. You can't turn it on and off with a redstone signal. You can configure the side inputs and outputs and stuff, which is nice. But the recipes, it'll only accept solids. It won't accept lava, which is a big downside for a lot of production, especially for a Stirling generator. Now, if I were to progress into these three here are a Stirling generator, the next level up, if you will. And if you have a simple Stirling generator, it's worthwhile to upgrade it to a Stirling generator so that you don't just have those materials wasted, or this item sitting around doing nothing in your base, potentially just kind of leeching some of your energy away. But if you make more than one in the future, or if you just don't want to bother using this in the recipe, I recommend you use this recipe because it ends up being cheaper in the long run. So, a Stirling generator, what advantage does this have over that? One, it doesn't leak. It just basically does stuff better in general. I mean, look here, max 30 micro infinity per tick is the maximum that this can create. And if I go over to a Stirling generator, the maximum is 80. So therefore, already you're able to make more than double the amount of power just from this one unit. Now, of course, it's dependent upon a capacitor. And this is the kind that you insert, not the capacitor banks that store power in this case. Now these will store power and stuff, and I highly recommend that you try and get up to a higher level as fast as possible for your capacitors that you insert in here. Reason being, I have inserted in here the same exact item, and that is one piece of coal into each of these units. And it looks like there's progressively less power in each of these. Actually, I forgot by putting this here. Yeah, it drained out. Whoopsie. Anyway, you can see that in here, there's 28,800 power is all I'm going to say, power units. This one here has 24,000. This one here has 19,200. They all had one piece of coal. The difference is each one has a different capacitor. Basic, double, octadic. So therefore, you're able to get more power from this, and it'll be faster. If you look here, efficiency 120%, efficiency 100%, efficiency 80%. So at the very least, I recommend you try and get yourself up to the highest level capacitor insert into these to get your money's worth, or your power's worth in this case, for that. Now, on top of that, what else can this do over the simple one? Well, as before, you see here, this fuel cannot be used in a simple Stirling generator, but it can be used in a regular one. So if you have a means of either producing lava or perhaps pumping lava, keep in mind, if you're pumping massive quantities of stuff on a server, you're probably going to cause lag and people will hate you. But if you're in a single player world, have at it. And if you're in a server that you think can handle it and other people might be coordinating with you, or even there might be some kind of creative lava source given to people so that they don't have to pump out of the nether, then that is also a good option for a power to, keep going in your base. Now, if you look on here, you have show recipes. Now, yes, it's the same stuff over in this one. I'm just going to use this because it's more comprehensive, has more options in it. You've got your spot for your capacitor. You've got your redstone mode, so you can turn it on, off, and so on, dependent on stuff. Same as some of the other machines I've shown in a different bit by bits. But you can also, of course, configure the inputs, outputs, disabled sections, and your recipes are all the same. The different things you can burn in here, mostly any kind of burnable items plus lava will get you some kind of, power in this case. And if you put down a capacitor bank, it will store that and create some kind of buffer for you so that if you run out, you're good to go. Now, that's just kind of basic stuff. Things that you can do with this. Yes, you can make yourself tree farms and things like that because Ender.io has farming stations and plenty of options like that. You can also use other solids, like you could feasibly make a sheep farm and pipe their wool in here if you want. But seriously, let's get into if I were to make it use lava. Now, I have an infinite lava source here. This is a creative drum from Extra Utilities 2 that I clicked on with a bucket of lava. And this gives me an option for infinite lava. Now, in order to make this use these, or make this use it properly, you'll have to pump your lava source. This is just basically acting as a lava source into a fluid tank of some sort. Now, there are two levels of fluid tanks. One will hold 16 buckets. The other one will hold 32 and is blast resistant. I think it might even be faster or something as well, but it doesn't require any power or anything. It at least will require a bucket, though. And you'll want to put down your Stirling generator, hopefully with an octadic capacitor in place so that you can get the most amount of power out of it. And this is just a really good and easy way of getting materials. Now, of course, you can, like I said, any burnables should work just fine. But in this case, we're talking lava buckets, not just lava being pumped in. So you have to have a bucket of lava going in. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's all dependent on this fluid tank. It interacts with either some kind of fluid cable or some kind of lava source being pumped into this. You have a bucket. You see here, I have one in here, inserted in, configure. You then pull from your lava source and it will start filling the bucket into the tank, right? Not a problem. This one here, it's not doing anything yet, right? So it's still dependent on this fluid tank. You will need to further demonstrate by going onto the side that is connected to the Stirling generator and making it push-pull. And it will then push the lava bucket in and pull an empty bucket back out once it's ready. Now in this case, it's always active. You might need to configure this a little further, pull, and you can always have it push-pull on that side as well. So therefore, it's going to push-pull lava buckets, and it will push out the empty buckets. It will create power. And if you look here, I have a basic capacitor bank or at least a whole bunch of them, hooked up next to this, creating us 120 energy per tick. So it's just a really good, simple source of power. And of course, you can have multiple Stirling generators feeding off of multiples of these. A lot of people usually try to drain out the nether. This can cause some interdimensional lag, especially if you have chunk loading going on. So be very aware of this, that liquids, the more you mess with them, the more you create lag. But this is one way that you can actually generate power that isn't just using burnables in your base. Now, there is something else that you could potentially do instead of making a Stirling generator. Or you could just make one to start with. Like I said, you could always go simple Stirling into a basic capacitor bank, take from there, and then make yourself solar panels, which is much less impactful on things like servers, and is also very friendly. Now, there are multiple tiers of these. You've got, of course, your simple, your photovoltaic, advanced, and your vibrant. Now, if you look at the recipe for the simple photovoltaic cell, it uses electrical steel, grains of infinity, infinity bimetal gears, photovoltaic plates, which require photovoltaic composite, which is made by coal powder, lapis powder, and silicon, each of which are made by grounding up different materials. Now, if you look here, to make one of these plates will require 3 of each of these resources, which will then make 3 photovoltaic composite, which will then need to be put in an alloy smelter to make 1 plate. You need 3 of those just to make a simple one. It's a lot of microcrafting for solar panels. Then you need all of these materials to make that one. That will get you 10 power per tick, or micro infinity in this case. 10. It's not a lot, but it's anytime that there's sun out. So if you're on a single player world, these are fantastic. You just need to have a bed. There you go. Bed, done. And you've got power, constant. No need to pump things in. No lag being created, at least not that I'm aware of. And it's really efficient. Now, what can you do with that? I recommend highly that you upgrade it straight away, because in my previous videos, I've shown you how you can actually get some endgame materials rather quickly. Therefore, it's just a matter of getting the rest of them. Now, in this case, a photovoltaic cell, a regular one, not the simple, will require more or less your energized ingots, which is, gold, redstone, and glowstone. As you see here, energetic, plus the same things. Now, you can upgrade your simples, but I recommend that you just kind of jump over them if you have the opportunity. You will probably have had to go into the nether unless you have a way of making nether quartz for your daylight sensors. But otherwise, this is really useful for making a lot more, and this will make you 40 micro infinity per tick. But I think that you could probably do better than that, because you already know how to make Enderman from what I've shown you early on in this series. So why not just go to an advanced photovoltaic cell, right? I mean, sure, each one of these, the photo, the advanced, and the vibrant, will each require different capacitors as well. So if you look here, this one takes basic capacitors, this one takes double layer capacitors to make, and this one, of course, makes octadic capacitors to make each of these respectively. So if I go with the advanced, I'll need 2 double layer capacitors for this recipe, as you can see here. Yes, you can always upgrade your old one, but once again, it's usually cheaper just to make it from scratch, and you don't have any materials wasted. But at least you can upgrade things if you so desire, or you don't have the materials to make the other ones. But if you make one of these, it's ender pearls and iron ingots in an alloy smelter. Well, that's not bad at all. But hey, if you can make energetic alloy, and you have access to ender pearls, then you might as well try and make vibrant photovoltaic cells, because those just require ender pearls and energetic alloys, plus, of course, your other materials to make as well. Your photovoltaic plates and so on. There's a lot of microcrafting involved, but it only takes 3 of these plates, 2 of those alloys. Yes, it takes some fused quartz, so you're going to need some in there. And your daylight sensors, which you're going to need quartz for anyway. So it's really going to be in the octadic capacitors, photovoltaic plates, vibrant alloy ingots, and you can make yourself 160 micro infinity per tick, or 160 energy. Those are really good. And you can just have a bunch of them spread out, over a large distance. They actually have a connected texture on there, which is really nice. and it can produce a lot of stuff, or a lot of power, and so on. Now in this case, you can see each of these say 0. That's because I have them currently disabled on the top, and it should start actually accepting. There we go. Now that one's gonna end up going up to 10, and there is a slight delay when you enable these things. Basically, when you see that little X on the capacitor bank itself, it might take a moment. Yeah, there we go. That one took 50 or so, because these don't instantly get you power, but they do get you power. You can see the different power ratings that you're actually getting in this case. Now the sun is actually pretty high. If I were to set the time to the morning, it will vary a little bit, so you're going to be getting more power in the middle of the day and so on, but it is a steady power rate. So if I were to bring it to midday, there we go, 6,000, that should get you your optimal amount of power. There you go. Now keep in mind, like I said, these aren't going to be a steady power rate throughout the entire day, but if you do have a bed, then it should keep you going with power for quite some while. And if you have battery cells or these basic capacitor banks hooked up nearby, then you should be good for your evening ventures. And these are very reliable and very good for that. And now keep in mind that most things that you process are going to end up costing you about, I don't know, 2,000 energy per use. So if you're like processing stuff, you're going to want to store a lot. And I do, once again, recommend that you go beyond a basic capacitor bank to save yourself the power, or at least the space. I recommend you at least go for the next level, that being a standard capacitor bank, which of course uses energetic alloy or electrical steel ingots in this case, if you are to make it with a little bit less. So this one, it's a little bit different because your base capacitor banks require a lot of capacitors in them. You can craft them up one way or another, and they're about the same. I mean, a little bit of difference in the material. This one is going to require more gold and glowstone, whereas this one is going to require more iron, coal, and silicon. So you actually have two different options on making a capacitor bank there, which I think is really key for a bit of variety. And then, of course, you can always try and make yourself the vibrant ones, but, you know, it's just not worth it at that point. If you make one of the regular capacitors, capacitor banks, it's 5 million, so that's 5 times the amount of a regular basic one. Of course, the vibrants are going to be better, but the materials at that point tend to be not quite worth how useful this block can be. So that's pretty much it on the Stirling generators and solar powers of Ender.io. I look forward to doing a little bit more on perhaps some liquids, as well as maybe even some mob generators that will give you some power as well. So if you guys enjoyed, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to spread the mischief to everyone that you can think of. And until next time, I'll see ya.